What's up, guys? Mr. Apocalypse here, aka M Kane. Today we're gonna be doing another creepypasta. It's called One for the Road. Now, sorry if I might cough in the middle of this or in some of it, because I am still very, sick from the allergies and stuff. I usually have a deeper voice than this, but my nose is also plugged up, so it sounds young, I guess. I guess I really am young, but still. Anyways, let's get this. Let's get this started. I woke to my friend Tom climbing through my window. It was a summer's night, around 2 a.m., and the heat had been unbearable for days. For that reason, I had left my window open slightly to let what cool air there was to filter into my bedroom while I slept. It was a scrambling, panicked noise which brought me to my consciousness, and immediately I thought someone was breaking into my house. In the darkness, I couldn't tell who it was, but as soon as I heard "help me," I recognized my friend's voice. After turning on the light, I pulled Tom into the room and sat him down on my old brown chair, which had seen better days. "Close the window," he ceased, half shouted, half whispered, and completely occupied by the nighttime scene outside. "Switch the light on." "Why?" I asked, confused and still half dazed. "It might see us." The word "it" sat in my mind, distilled and unearned. I would have laughed if Tom hadn't had such an unsettling look on his face. I've never known him to be spooked by anything, and to see him so visibly shaken took me by surprise and filled me with trepidation. I switched off the light and my eyes adapted once more to the dark. Tom sat there with his head on his hands. The room lit dimly by the streetlights outside filtering through the blinds. "What's going on?" I said. "You wouldn't believe me." He looked up at me, and even in the low light, I could see the sweat running down his temples. "Tom, whatever it is, it's okay." "No, you don't understand." "Try me," I said, and with that he relayed his story in a hushed, wavering voice. Tom had been out that night. No surprise, really, as he would always enjoy to drink. In fact, he enjoyed it too much, and his behavior of late had been erratic at best, self-destructive at worst. He'd been at the Wyndham Lodge, a small old man's pub near the town main street. I knew why he'd been there before he even told me. His ex-girlfriend, Shelley, worked there behind the bar. A month earlier, she had broken up with him. She just couldn't take his drinking anymore. That night, Tom had dragged a mutual friend of ours, Greg, to the lodge, under the guise of a couple of games of pool and just one drink. Come midnight, as the pool closed, Tom had to be dragged from the bar by the manager and thrown out into the street. He'd been pleading with Shelley to have a drink with him when she finished her shift. When his simple question turned into a bitter demand, he was quickly rejected. I knew that Tom was like when he had a drink in him, which was one of the reasons I refused to go out with him that night. He'd been increasingly argumentative and unpleasant. The breakup with Shelley made him even worse. We were all trying to help him as best we could. I'm not painting a great picture of him, but when he was sober, he was a thoughtful and caring person, and a good friend. After staggering down a couple of streets and lanes, Tom produced a hip flask filled with whiskey, which he carried in his pocket, and asked Greg to join him for a few more drinks on the way home. Greg refused, no doubt already having had his fill, and so it wasn't long before an argument broke out. Greg was just trying to help Tom up the road, but instead receiving drunken insults. Tom crawling around the words he would regret in the morning. After a few minutes After a few minutes of verbal bashing, Greg gave up and made his own way home. Tom staggered along the road. Tom staggered along the road, and Kurt, Shelley, Greg, and the rest of the world were refusing to have another drink with him. There was nothing else for it but for Tom to drink alone, as he wandered along an empty street not far from where I lived. The rain came on. First, slight at first, then torrential. So heavy the downpour, in fact, that he was forced to take shelter and wait for it to pass. So it just so happened that the street he was on, Sterling Street, had its fair share of abandoned buildings, having once housed the workers of a now defunct factory. One house in particular had an old porch which encased the front doorway on either side and had a pointed roof, which proved just enough shelter for one drunken 20-something during the downpour. Tom climbed a small fence and staggered across the weed-filled garden toward the front door. I say the front door, but in reality it had long since been broken in, no doubt rotting somewhere inside the house, alongside unseen floorboards, roof beams, and memories. No matter how drunk my friend was, he had no intention of exploring inside. He just wanted somewhere to stay. He just wanted somewhere to stay dry, and the porch provided enough protection for that. And so he sat on the front step, angry and embittered. The rain, for the most part, been rebuffed by the porch roof above. He waited there for a while, looking out across the overgrown garden in the street beyond. The rain dancing off the turnip. It seemed clear to Tom that he was going to be there for a while longer, and so, if all else, drink. There he sat, taking increasingly longer slugs from the hip flask. It filled with cheap whiskey, and Tom filled with anger at the world, Shelley, Greg, and everyone else who wouldn't understand. Now, Tom had a habit common to heavy drinkers. Then he would get to the crusade and intoxicate most of his sober mind. He started to talk to himself, and that night, after the pub and a good portion of the hip flask, he began a conversation. He cursed his friends and family, his delusions. He called Shelley a whore, and beyond all else, he hated those around him for being so perfect, and lecturing him on how his life was, on how to live life. At least the drink wouldn't turn its back on him. That was something he always said he would rely on. The rain hadn't abated, falling with the same ferocity it had from the start. Tom's words followed up by the white noise which blanketed everything around him. Finally, after another slug of the whiskey, he slumped against the cold, rotting porch frame, closed his eyes, and began to drift off into a drunken sleep. As he did so, he mumbled once more about Greg and Shelley's refusal to join him. And it was just one drink for the road. It was then that Tom felt a drip of rain make its way through a crack above his forehead, and at the same time the weight of something uncomfortable protruding into his shoulder. As he opened his eyes, he felt the warm, humid breeze flutter across his face. Arid and stale, far removed from the air around him, which pulsated with each sleet of rain. "I'll drink with you," a graveled voice breathed into Tom's ear. He turned, startled and horrified by these words. Only lazy beast confronted by an unnatural, averted face which rested its pointed chin on his shoulder, its body poking out from the darkened doorway behind. Its face was covered in dirt and grime as if it was spent decades beneath the earth. It held the shrouded presence of ivory claw pulled tightly over a weathered frame, implying skeletal creatures beneath and showing every movement of jaw and bone. There are some sights which all sober, even the most irritable drunk, and this was one of them. Tom dipped forward, following to a slabbed garden path thickly covered by weeds and soil. Screamed at the top of his voice, only to be drowned out by the torrential rain. Its million voices engulfing his foreskin, his forsaken one. Clawing at the ground, he rushed to his feet and leaped over the garden fence to the street. Then on to the rain, into the night, away from that house, from whatever thing it disturbed there. Blood coursed through his veins as he fled, and his hands began to ache excruciatingly from a potent cocktail of fear and alcohol. Gasping for breath, he stopped for a moment, now far away from the house at the other end of the street. He turned to look back, but it was difficult to see, the rain hurling itself into his eyes with such force that the scenery was blurred and distinct. Slowly he calmed and entered into a sober dialogue with himself about having drank too much and just seeing things. It was then that through the wobbling wall of rain he saw something move. A figure, shrouded in darkness and and cloth, climbed over the fence in pursuit. Tom wiped his eyes in disbelief as he began to run towards him at top speed. Panic, absolute in control, and Tom turned screaming. No one able to hear his plea for help. He kept running. He left Sterling Street beyond, and yet at every turn the shrouded thing from the house followed. Finally, he made it to the street where I lived and climbed through the window, hoping to be safe. I stood there in silence. He seemed so upset, so certain that that he even made me believe in the story for a moment. But then what I saw as the truth presented itself. Tom, I said gently, your bone dry. What? No, He stopped as he ran his hands over his clothes and then his hair. There hasn't been a drop of rain in weeks, and tonight has been just still as the others, but he hesitated for a moment, shaking his hands and rubbing his mouth with his hand. No, I'm telling you, this happened. That thing is real. Tom, you've been drinking too much. You probably fell asleep in a daze you made it here. I placed my hands on his shoulder to assure him. Please, let's get you home. Give me a minute to change my clothes and I'll walk you there. As I moved across the room, Tom pulled out his whiskey flask and took a big slug. Maybe you're right, I just need to sleep it off. I turned and pulled the light on. Before I had a chance, Tom let out an almighty scream. I've genuinely never heard anything like it. Utter fear, complete and outright. He leapt to his feet, opened my window hysteria, and fled into the night. Finally, one day, Tom stood at the front door looking as good as the shape I've seen in a long time. He claimed that he lived that in fact went to an alcoholic rehabilitation program, which I was having control. I didn't beg afterwards for memory. Saw something fall and then in the front of the room. Okay, we're gonna stop there because the video is I can't go past 15 minutes. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and enjoy. Mr. Apocalypse, aka M Kane, out.